Hey, what's going on? I want to welcome you to my channel. My name's Kevin, and I help empower women who are in relationships with men who are distant, disconnected, and disengaged to reconnect, rebuild, and reignite their relationships so they could take their power back, take charge in their relationships, and take ownership of their lives. So today I want to talk about why it's not a good idea to stay together for the kids. Yes, you heard that right. I know that goes against what a lot of people, almost everybody, will tell you to do in your relationship when you're in a relationship where things just are not working, where you're completely unhappy, where you might not even be in love anymore, or maybe there's bitterness, resentment, anger, you're fighting all the time, and you know that it's really not working, but there's kids, right? There's kids to consider. And I know that it's a very popular decision with a lot of couples who choose to stay together for their kids. So I want to share with you some reasons why that is not a good idea. Now, keep in mind, this is not me telling you that you should leave, but it's not me telling you that you should stay either. It's simply me sharing another perspective that you often don't hear from relationship advice, experts and therapists and counselors and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I want to share with you today. So real quick before we get started, if you haven't done so, click the like and subscribe buttons down below. And that way when I post new videos, you can be sure to be notified so you can watch them. And I've also created a free video series. It's for you if you've been trying so hard to get your man to work with you to fix the problems in your relationship. And you want to be able to do that, but every time you try, it always ends up in a fight, and he doesn't do what he says he's going to do, or he doesn't think there's problems in the relationship, or he says it's all your fault and you need to get over it. If you've been trying and nothing's working to get him to help you resolve these problems in your relationship, then click the link in the description box below for my free video series called Communication Breakthrough, where I will share with you a lot of information for how to do that, how to get him to open up and talk with you and to work with you to fix the problems in your relationship. All right, so let's get started on talking about the reasons why you should not stay together for your kids. Okay, so one reason is that it's simply because, when you're in the same household, you can try all you want to not fight in front of the kids. You try to get along, you try to keep things calm and peaceful. But here's the thing about kids. They're very perceptive. They're very perceptive, and they pick up on what's going on in their environment, especially when that environment is in the home. So as much as you think that they're not hearing you fight, or they're not seeing it happen, they're seeing you guys get along. But if there's an energy, if there's feelings there that are, where there's anger or resentment, where there's just unhappiness, where there's, some bitterness in there, they pick up on that stuff, even when we think they don't. They really do. We as human beings, part of what we are able to do is to sense, right? We're able to pick up on feelings, and it's a real thing. It's not airy-fairy kind of, stuff, the mystical things that doesn't exist. It really is something that happens. And, if you've ever walked into a place, be it maybe you went to a party, you went to someone's house, or you went to some place that you've never been or whatever, and you just kind of had a feeling. Maybe there was a feeling about it. It could have been a good feeling or a bad feeling. If you've ever met somebody and they kind of, you never, couldn't put your finger on it, but there was something about them that just felt off, or you didn't particularly like, right? Or something rubbed you the wrong way, right? That's what that's all about. It's feelings. And kids pick up on everything that's going on within their environment. They pick up what's going on in the house. So they definitely feel that stuff. And because they feel it, it does have a negative impact on them. So, when they're around anger, when they're around resentment, when they're feeling bitterness, or they're seeing that there's unhappiness, and that they could feel that, and it really does affect them as well. So it's not just you and your husband or your boyfriend that's being affected, but now your kids. They're growing up with these feelings, right? They're growing up kind of almost learning that this is how I feel, right? That like it's almost becomes normal for them to feel angry or resentful or bitter or upset or unhappy, right? And that's, I'm sure, the last thing that any parent wants for their kids. Okay, so now another thing, and this is an obvious one, but a lot of times it happens, where when you're fighting in front of the kids. Now, there's a lot of parents that say that they don't fight in front of the kids, and they talk about that, and despite their best efforts, though, there are times where it does happen. So, anytime something gets into a fight, again, and when I say a fight, now, hopefully it's not actual physical abuse. That would be a whole nother thing, and that's obvious, man. If there's any kind of physical abuse going on, there's absolutely no point to stay together for the kids' sake, because then the kids are witnessing that and they're learning from that, right? And that's what they think relationships are and how women should be treated, and it goes on and on. There's a whole host of negative effects that I don't even want to get into, like that whole thing. So, but that's a more obvious one. Now, when I'm talking about fighting in a non-physical sense, I'm not talking about when you argue, right? So arguing and fighting are two different things. I've talked about that before in other videos, but basically when you're fighting, it's kind of like winner take all. It is where it could get very nasty. It's where it's kind of like my way or the highway. One person wins, one loses. There's just kind of, it's about victory and defeat. That's a fight. And if that's going on, that's what the kids are learning. They're learning that this is how mom and dad resolve their issues, basically. This is how they deal with their issues. They call each other names if that happens. I'm not saying that's happening with you, but if it is, that's one thing, right? Or, maybe mom and dad are yelling at each other. Or, maybe, dad throws a tantrum and bangs his fist down, or someone's throwing something, or, somebody's just yelling profanities, or, whatever it might be. But you can see like that, how much of a negative impact that can have on the kids when they are witnessing that and they're around that all the time, and they're also, again, feeling that energy and absorbing that and learning from that this is how mom and dad deal with their issues, and they're learning that this is how maybe they need to resolve their issues. This is how they learn to deal with their issues, and this extends out in to like school, with friends, in different situations, even with you as a parent. They'll start lashing out at you or snapping at you. And, I remember going through this with my daughter. She's 10 now, but at a younger age, there were times when, her mother and I would fight, and we'd get into these things, and, we didn't mean to do it in front of her, but sometimes emotions get the best of us. And before you know it, an argument escalates up into a fight, and, it gets ugly. And, she had some anger issues, with how she was learning to deal with things. And, we could see, the ways that she was kind of learning from us. And, that was like the big wake up call for us that, whoa, now it's not just between, her and I anymore, but now our daughter's being affected by this, and this is what she's seeing, and this is what she's learning. And, there were times where she just would snap at, me or her mother, or, she would yell, and, and it wasn't violent, but it was just like, whoa, where did that come from? And it came from us. It came from us. So they really do learn from you. And that leads into the third thing that I want to talk about, is the kids learning from, they learn from us. Our kids learn from us. We are their most their most powerful influences and their earliest influences, us as the parents. So when they, and this isn't just not like fighting now anymore, but this is just about relationships too. When, again, it goes into the environment, when there's unhappiness, when there's resentments, bitterness, anger, all these trust issues that tend to happen, or, there might be silence. Maybe you guys are just silent. You don't talk to each other. Maybe you're so distant and disconnected. So when everybody's, spending time together in the same room, well, one person's on the phone, someone's checking email or Facebook, and nobody's communicating, nobody's talking. People, everyone in the house is in silence. And, they see when you and your husband or your boyfriend are like that, they see that stuff and they're learning. Even if they're off playing, my daughter did that stuff. She'd be off playing. She'd be in another room sometimes, but her ears, she was always listening to our conversations. She picked up on the tone of our voices, so she could tell when she was in the room with us. She studied us. I'd catch her sometimes kind of looking and staring, almost like, what is she looking at? And, and I realized, oh my God, she's looking at us. She's seeing how we're interacting and how we're not interacting. And so, again, they learn from us how relationships should be. That's what they think, right? So, when whatever's going on in there, if you're sitting in silence, you're not communicating, there's no real love being expressed. The kids don't see that happening. There's just kind of this distance and disconnection in there. That's what they're learning. And in their minds, it's like, this is how relationships are supposed to be. And so as they get older and they get at the age where they start, getting interested in dating, what do you think that they're going to seek out in a partner in a relationship? The same ones are very similar people who are like we are. And that's what they're going to be learning about relationships. That's how they're going to be treating their relationships. So it's a very, very, difficult thing there. And again, we've got to be thinking beyond just, staying together and keeping both parents in the home. Because even though I agree that, every child, needs both parents, it's very important, but there's still a way to be involved, right? You could co-parent, and you don't have to be together to be able to co-parent a child, right? Both parents can still be in your child's life. You can both be in your children's life, without being together. If the only reason you're staying together is for your kids' sake, it's probably time to at least really consider the big picture. By doing this, what is the long-term effect? What's the big picture effect that's going to happen down the road with your kids? What are they seeing in the house? What are they feeling? What are they experiencing? What are they learning from you and your husband or your boyfriend? What are they learning about resolving their issues? What are they learning about relationships? What are they picking up on, right? What feelings are they constantly absorbing that are impacting them? And they're growing up with these feelings, right? Negative feelings all the time, right? It's really something to strongly consider. So that's all I've got for today. That's my kind of rant, if you will, but it's really more than a rant. It's just, again, some points to consider. So I hope that this helped to kind of give you another perspective. If you're at that point where you're trying to think, should I leave this relationship? But we have kids. I don't think I should go, or maybe we should stay together for the kids' sake. I hope that this in some way shed some light and gave you a different view on kind of looking at the whole picture and really how your kids are being affected long term. All right. So that's it for me today. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and type them in down below. And until next time, have faith, follow your heart, trust yourself, and I'll talk to you soon.